And we are live. Test, test, test. Let me make sure that my mics are working. Let me do a real quick audio test. Let's see. Can you guys hear me? Alright, so we are getting into the Razer Blade 14 Ryzen 9 with an RTX 3070 graphics card. We're going to run through the benchmarks, see what this thing's got, see if this tiny little machine can actually produce what it says it can produce. We're going to see if this machine is actually the world's fastest 14-inch laptop like they try to pitch to us that it is. So I'm going to go ahead and do a Geekbench 5 benchmark, and we're going to see what that gives us. Geekbench 5. Where you at? There you are. Later. Run CPU bench. Actually, let me double check, make sure I got all my stats where they need to be at. Oh, there we go. Let's turn that to manual. I don't think the fans will have to go all the way up for this test, but we'll just see how hot it gets. I'm going to go ahead and open up my Afterburner. Make sure we're monitoring what the computer's doing. Okay. Right now we're running at 49 degrees at idle, but now I just jacked up all of the different stats in the Synapse software. I know that the CPU can get up to 45 watts, so hopefully we get close to that with in boost mode, and then the GPU can go up to 100 watts. So and that's across the board. The 3060, the 3070, and the 3080 GPUs can all only go to 100 watts. So if you step up to that 3080 for $600 more, then you're not going to get any more power. It will probably run faster, but not $600 worth faster. So let's go ahead and check out this benchmark and see what it's capable of. Let me double check that NVIDIA is in graphics mode. GeForce Experience. So I've nicknamed this computer the Blackbook Pro because that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like a three-headed snake in place of the Apple logo on the back, which I'm not hating on it. I think it looks really nice. It's a great computer. But it looks like they literally just, copied the MacBook Pro and made it black. So let's jump in here. Electriz, how's it going? Mike Lawton, how's it going? I think it's the first time I've seen you in this chat. Welcome. Can't watch this live because I have to go out. Sorry. No problem, Electriz. Yeah, it'll be up a little bit later. Within the next day or two, I should have timestamps on here so people can kind of skip to what they want. But I'm much more prepared for this stream, so I don't anticipate it going on as long as the other ones. We'll see. I've got a few more games than I normally have on here. Um, Due to popular request, I downloaded Warzone as well. I got Fortnite on here. Um, I haven't tried out Modern Warfare on here yet. I don't think it can't be the full game because that full game is really expensive and that downloaded for free. But I got Grand Theft Auto on here as well. So we're gonna do a lot more benchmarks outside of my normal games, depending on what people want. But I've got almost a terabyte of software on here. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Yeah, the live streams will be a little less polished than my other videos, but yeah, my other videos take a lot longer and they take a lot more thought to kind of get the right shots and all that. I definitely the videos that I added, I definitely try to make them as fast as possible, cut to the chase, but also kind of upbeat and entertaining so that people actually stick through the whole video to see what the computer's all about. All right, so we got the single core score of 1437 and a multi-core score of 7381. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in here. Single is 1437 and the multi is 7381. And you know, I'm interested to see, I'm going to do a test real quick with changing my graphics card to be, since there's two different drivers for the graphics card. There's a game ready driver and then there's a studio driver. I feel as though the studio driver would supplement the CPU a little bit better, just because I know with the Adobe apps that I use, it's very CPU heavy, especially when it comes to rendering. It does use the GPU a lot as well, but I'm going to do a quick test with studio mode just because I've never done this before. Rerun the Geekbench benchmarks and see if that changes the numbers at all. It would be a perfect professional and gaming laptop if it didn't have the Razer logo. I kind of agree with that. I like the Razer logo. I think it looks really cool, but you bring that into a board meeting, or even when you're trying to show a client what you're working on, it doesn't feel as professional as if you had just that Apple logo on the back, or some other, like an HP or some other less looking like a kid's gaming laptop. I mean, I personally think the Razer Blade is an awesome machine, and but yeah, when it comes to presentation, I guess you could always cover up the logo, but just picked up a refurbished 3090. Wow. With a 5900X and 16 gigabyte, 32 megabytes of RAM from Alienware. It's an R10. Got it for 1908 after talking Dell down. You know, I've been hearing a lot of people talking about negotiating with Dell. That's not something that I had thought to do before. I might actually look into that. I repasted the GPU because of the GDDR6X. Interesting. Yeah, the thing with the Alienware GPUs is that because they're shrunken down, everybody expects them to perform like the massive regular sized GPUs, and that's not going to happen. When you get a 3090 in a computer already, and it costs about the same price as a 3090, and you got a 3090 for $2,000 in a computer, that's an insane deal, man. So yeah, all the haters out there that are complaining that, oh, the 3090 should be more powerful, technically yes, but you're getting a slightly scaled down version of the 3090 for a fraction of buying the 3090 by itself. Alright, installation complete. Let's go ahead and check out this Geekbench 5 score again. I'm actually, before I do that, I'm going to take a little snippet, because if I use this screenshot for my full review, then I want to make sure that I have some good content in there. Snippet tool. Oops. Snipping tool. Yeah, it's like 90 to 95% of a regular 3-fan one, honestly. Yeah, that's crazy. Snip that. Save it as my Geekbench. So the keyboard on the Razer, something that I'm not used to, because I've never gotten into the custom profiles for games, the custom colors and stuff. When I jumped into Call of Duty Black Ops, as soon as I started the game, the whole keyboard lit up with all of the buttons that I would typically normally use in their own different colors. The whole color scheme just all of a sudden became Call of Duty. I thought that was pretty impressive. I know that existed, but I didn't know it did that by default with the Razer. This was the first computer that just by default, when I went into a game, the keyboard lit up with all of the functions that I would need in their own different colors. It was really cool. It was pretty immersive. And when you were starting the game, the keyboard was kind of pulsing that orange that the rest of the game, the rest of the game theme kind of had that orange look, and it does add that extra layer. I know it sounds like something small, but it adds that extra layer of gameplay, which I thought was pretty cool. I got it on OfferUp right now, and people want to buy the GPU for $2,200. Yeah, that's crazy. So they know that it's the scaled down, the smaller version of the GPU, right? Not the full version, which it doesn't matter too much. Once you put it in a bigger box, it'll also perform a little bit better. How much was this laptop? This laptop, I believe, was $2,300. I'll go ahead and open up the site to show you the different price points. The 3080 is, I want to say it's $3,800. So the Razer Blade 14. This is the first Razer. You guys probably know this, but it's the first Razer in their lineup with AMD. The other ones are using Intel. So right here we've got the one that we got is the $2,200 version. We're working with the 3070. I couldn't justify jumping up to the 3080 in the laptop just because of what I've read about performance just barely being that much more. And I know that the people that watch this channel have been complaining a lot about how unaffordable the laptops that I've been reviewing are. So I know that running with this one, doing benchmarks on this one, is the most likely one for people to actually want to pay attention to. The most likely purchase. 3070 is great, but yeah, you're saving $600 going with 3070. Crazy expensive. I've got the Legion 5 and the 1660 Ti with the 10750H, and it's good for me on the go. Cooling is great. Probably overheat, honestly, man. Yeah, that's true. Because the Razer Blade 14. As soon as I don't know if you guys saw my unboxing video, but the box itself, that was the smallest box that I've ever opened up for a gaming laptop, and it literally feels like you're holding a MacBook Pro in your hands. I call it a Blackbook Pro, because it feels like a small, tiny, thin MacBook. So I'm really interested to see what kind of heating we're going to be running into today and what the frames per second we're about to get. Alright, so I went ahead, snipped that, and I'm going to run this test real quick with the studio driver and see if that changes anything, since the studio driver, I feel, probably helps out the CPU a little bit more. I'm not sure, but we'll check it out. Yeah, 3080 with an i9, I could definitely see that overheating for sure in a small thin laptop, unless they've got some really good fans going. That's another thing that kind of concerns me about the Razer Blade 14 is most of the gaming laptops that I've used, they've got ventilation, exhaust ventilation on the sides, on the back, and intakes on the bottom. There's 2 intake fans on the bottom, and then all of the exhaust happens at the very back of the laptop, but kind of underneath the laptop. And then there's a second set of ventilation that kind of goes out horizontally, and it brushes up against the hinge, so that heat hits that entire long hinge. I see why they added such a big bezel there at the bottom of the screen, because that heat hitting close to the screen is probably not good for it. So they had to give it that bit of a buffer because of all the heat that's coming out the back. So we'll see how it performs today. I got this Razer Blade 14. The one thing I don't like is the thermals. 90 to 98 degrees gaming. Wow. Yeah, we'll see if we get that today. That's pretty hot. Never thought to use studio drivers with the CPU stuff. Yeah, I've never thought about it either. I might be crazy, might not do anything, but I have like a feeling like it might perform better on CPU heavier tasks, but we'll see. Can you undervolt with throttle stop to keep the CPU down? I'd imagine you don't need full clock all the time, and I'm sure it stays there or tries to. Most laptops, from what I've seen, the CPU heat is the issue, but a quick undervolt helps a lot of them most of the time. Some companies lock the CPU in the BIOS though. Dell is notorious for locking Intel CPU. Yeah, I haven't actually personally. I know I've heard a lot about throttle stop, but I actually have not personally used it yet. I might do a kind of playing around with that today if you guys want to guide me through it, if that's something that you're interested in seeing if it helps. Most of the stuff that I do is kind of more of the surface for most people that are going to be looking into this laptop. I like to just by default look at the default type of overclocking and performance customizations and adjustments, since that's what I feel like most people will be using, but I can go a little bit more in depth too. Should add me on Discord sometime, dude. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of the tech reviewers out there with a Discord, and I still have not yet created a Discord, or I still have not yet created a Justin Tech Discord. I know I created one a while ago to jump on somebody else's, but yeah, I need to be more active on there. Alright, let's see here. What did I get before? Before the single core was 1437 and the multi was okay. So yeah, when I jumped into the studio drivers, it bumped up the Geekbench score. So I'm going to go ahead and put a separate column for studio drivers. And we got a higher score for both the single and the multi-core score. So I'm guessing in some way they help and supplement the CPU or give more power to the CPU or something for these CPU benchmarks. I'm gonna, for the next one, I think Cinebench is also a more CPU heavy benchmark test. I'm going to use the studio driver for that, since that seems to be a higher we're going to get a higher output with that. Alright, so let's start with the multi-core, just because I love seeing all those buckets running really fast. Make sure that my Synapse is all the way up. So let's see what heats we're getting right now, because that was a pretty extensive test. We're getting 62 degrees right now. Let's see what we got at the max. Sorry, I'm looking at a windowed version of what I'm working with, since my laptop has to not show the screen. I'm looking at my Razer Blade screen on my M17 Alienware laptop screen within Streamlabs. So it's a bit smaller of a window. I'm trying to read these numbers. So yeah, I was looking like at its highest it was at 60. So now in Cinebench we're running 65 degrees right now on the GPU. The CPU temperature, whoa, okay, here we go. CPU temperatures clocking out at 100 degrees. Yeah, on our when I go back in time, our last test was showing that the CPU was also at 100 degrees. That's pretty hot. Let me crank the fans up really quick and see if we can get a little bit of a performance boost. Right now the fans already sound kind of loud. Let's bring, I don't know if I want to go max. I'll go 100 under max. 5300 RPMs. Alright, what do we got here? When I use the Razer Blade Synapse and put CPU on low, temperature go down to 88 to 87. Yeah, I would see how that would probably throttle the speeds as well. That's like what, 8% or so. That's decent, to be honest. I've got Discord Nitro, man. Make a Discord, I'll join you. Thanks, man. I want to see Justin benchmarks. Hope my thermals are normal, by the way. Toasty. Wonder how long it'll maintain that until it downclocks. Yeah, what's it clocking at right now? Why is it reopening Afterburner? I thought I already had it open. Uh-oh. Okay. CPU temperature, CPU usage, 100%. It is maxing out that CPU. So yeah, when we first jumped on this, looked like the CPU was hitting 4.1, dropped down to 3.5 gigahertz. Looks like it's kind of throttling itself at 3.6 right now, so it's not getting that full 4.1. Keep in mind the Cinebench render tests, I mean, they're maxing out what they could possibly get on that, so you would never render something this intensive on a game, but this does give you a good idea of what you're working with. Yeah, it's true. I should just look at the larger task manager instead of this small, overly populated graph for Afterburner. Oops. Yeah, we're getting 3.5 right now, maxing out at that. I wonder if we're going to see a steady decline, or if the fans are at such a max right now that it's adequately removing the heat. You can see there's a little bit of a bump down when it changed render scenes. Angel Sosa, welcome to the channel. I want to change that default GIF. I just clicked on alert box. I didn't really know exactly all the settings on it on Streamlabs yet. I don't want to pay for the full version yet because right now I'm unemployed, but the channel's growing quicker and quicker. Hopefully, hopefully by the end of the year it'll be at a somewhat stable spot between the different income streams, that I won't have to jump out there and work for a company anymore. I like doing freelance though. I don't know if you guys have seen some of my visual effects, but freelance visual effects, computer animation, and motion graphics. I enjoy doing that for clients that are not overly picky, because whenever I have a client that's overly picky or acts like they're not overly picky, and they're not the ones that make the choices, the decisions, once it goes to their higher up, then they make their decisions and I have to redo stuff. That is a little bit frustrating sometimes, but if I'm getting paid hourly on a project, it's kind of on them. But I really don't like to redo work either. I like to put most of my time into creation and not recreation. Yeah, you can see where it throttles itself to try to cool down. Yep. This is kind of what I expected on such a thin laptop. What's most important is how many frames per second we get in gaming and if it's worth it. But yeah, right now it is maxing itself out. I bet you if I lifted the laptop up, it would have more room for heat dissipation, but I'm trying to use this computer in more of a real world use scenario, and most people are not using cooling pads. Most people are not lifting their laptop up to allow all that airflow to get in to the intake fans. The little rubber nub on the bottom of the laptop, it is pretty thick, so that does add a nice little extra gap for airflow. A lot thicker than you would expect on a small laptop like this, but apparently it's not thick enough to allow enough airflow for all this heat to come out. I was kind of wondering where all that heat would go when there wasn't going to be vents on the sides. It's not throttling too bad though, honestly. The 10870H can throttle down to like 2.6 when it gets hot and runs everything like doggy. Wow, down to 2.6, yeah, that's pretty low. I mean, it sounds like I'm knocking on it. I'm pretty impressed that a laptop like this can get rid of heat in general. I think it's got 88 blade fans on the bottom. In my floor view, I'll do a closer look on the internals. My unboxing at the very end of that video, the live unboxing, I showed some of the internals. One thing to note is that the maximum amount of RAM that you can get is 16 gigabytes. A lot of people had some problems with that. I personally didn't really have too much of an issue with it, because when I look at my RAM usage when I'm playing a game, when I've done these tests, I rarely ever go above 14 gigabytes for gameplay. Now, when I use my Adobe apps, my creative apps, I tend to need all 32 gigabytes of RAM that I use on my laptop. So this wouldn't be a very sufficient laptop that I wouldn't really recommend if you're doing a lot of 4K editing, or even using After Effects, which just any Adobe products use a lot of RAM. So that would be something that would probably not the best bet for those type of people, unless most of your editing is 1080p and you don't plan to go to 4K anytime soon. Could be used for both gaming and editing. So I got the fans. Actually, since I've got the fans on max, I'm gonna go ahead, do a little sound test for you guys. Yeah, so it's not quiet. I was getting about 62 decibels. Fan noise has never been something that's annoyed me too much because it's kind of a white noise that I'm used to as a creative guy. Anytime I do rendering, especially at the last company I worked at an animation studios. The entire area, we worked in an open environment with these long tables of computers. When we all started rendering at the same time, it was just a massive, loud fan orchestra surrounding us. So that kind of white noise is something that I've gotten used to. My wife, on the other hand, she's not used to the loud fan noise, so she notices it. Okay, looks like the CPU dropped out because it finished. So we got 11,682. It's not bad. So it's still pushing some good numbers for how small this is. Just gets hot. You know what? Now that I say that it gets hot, the actual feel of the keyboard is cooler than all of the other laptops that I've used. So the heat is not escaping out the top of the computer. I feel a little air coming through the keys, but the laptop itself, I mean, obviously the screen is cool, but the palm rests are not hot. Very impressed with that. The bottom, wow, this is the coolest laptop that I've felt. I know the internals are showing that the inside is hot, but the outside of the laptop is the coolest that I've felt on any gaming laptop, especially after one of these benchmark tests. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It's not going to burn your flesh when you're touching it like some of the other gaming laptops. Let's go ahead and type in the 1162 multi-core score. Then single core. Let's go ahead and check that out. That one's going to take slightly longer because it's only one render bucket. So right now we're working with 40 degrees Celsius. Go ahead and open up HW Info for the people that are just now jumping in so you can kind of see all the specs of what we're working with. Oh. Oops. You can see we've got the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070 laptop. I opted out of getting the 3080 because I didn't want to spend the $600 extra for what has been said to be only a 10% increase. I feel like most people that are purchasing this are probably going to go with this model. I'll put a link to the exact one that I got in the description. But yeah, and then we're working with the AMD Ryzen 9 5900HX. So by the HX, it means that it's overclockable. It's the most powerful version of this processor. So shoving that into a small 14-inch laptop definitely produces an interesting outcome. Rummet Pathray, who is this laptop compared to? Zephyrus G15. How is it compared to the Zephyrus G15? I should put those benchmarks all in this spreadsheet that I just created. But I believe that the Zephyrus was doing better. I personally am not a huge fan of small laptops. The Zephyrus G15 has been, I'd say, my favorite one that I've dealt with so far. Style-wise, I like the look of the Alienware, but the Zephyrus, the Asus software, being able to connect that to my phone, everything just worked really well with the Zephyrus. You don't get a webcam, so if you need a webcam, the Zephyrus G15 might be an issue for you. Let me pull up my benchmarks real quick on the Zephyrus. So yeah, it looks like for Geekbench 5 on the Zephyrus, we were getting 1429, so less than this. And for the multi-core, we're getting 7503, so just right at that same multi-core score. Cinebench R23, we got a multi-core of 12164, so that one was a little bit better than this one. Where it really proves its worth and how powerful it is going to be in gaming, but these overall benchmarks are definitely some good starting points. Cordy, how's it going? Can you guys hear those fans over the microphone? I think on my next benchmark tests, I'm gonna get a headset so that the microphone's gonna be right up against my mouth. You don't hear any other background noise, because I know that sometimes the fans can be a little bit of an annoying background white noise for some of you guys. Zephyrus is almost $200, $300 cheaper than the Razer in India. Yeah, the Razer is, I mean, it's an expensive laptop. It definitely appeals to the people that need more portability as far as size. I've been hearing a lot of complaints about the battery of the Razer 14. It is only a 61 watt-hour battery, so we'll see in my tests after today how long that actually lasts. It's not going to be good for gaming as far as the battery, but we'll see how much you get for as far as web browsing, and then I'm going to do tests with HD video streaming and see what you can get with that. But yeah, I love the Zephyrus. That was one of the ones that I got really excited about. Zephyrus G15, to be more specific. I know there's a lot of Asus, really great Asus laptops. Oh, and then another thing on the Asus G15 is that you can get more than 16 gigabytes of RAM. This laptop maxes out at 16 gigabytes. So if you need more than that, this smaller laptop is probably not the one you want to get. But if you step up to the Razer 15, which is an Intel-based machine, you can also get Thunderbolt 4, and you get bigger screen. You can get more RAM than the 16 gigabytes. a lot of those limitations open up going with the Razer 15. So I think I'm gonna include a link in the description for that as well, um, just because of some of the comparisons that I'll go over in my full review. But yeah, the Razer 15 will be a better choice for some people, for sure. But the overall style, the feel of it, I love this Mac Black. It's got like an anodized metal matte black um, material on it. It's definitely a nice looking laptop. I have tested out the speakers a little bit, and this THX spatial audio word that they're throwing around, saying that it's just this amazing audio. It looks exactly like the MacBook Pro speakers. Does not sound like the MacBook Pro speakers. It uh, when bass hits, when you crank the speakers all the way up, there's a little bit of distortion in the speakers. So if I were to rate this laptop speakers against all the other gaming laptop speakers that I've tested out, it would be in the bottom half of speakers for sure. But there's going to be a lot of people that want portability, that are going to be using their headphones with this anyways. You don't get a 14-inch laptop because you want amazing speakers, unless you're getting a MacBook Pro, and then you're probably not a gamer. What about M16? Yeah, see, the M16 is another one that I want to get my hands on. I read through a lot of YouTube comments on other people's videos, just to see what people are asking for, what people are requesting. The M16 and the Legion 5 Pro are two laptops that people are just aching to see more of, and especially the Legion series. I don't know what's going on with them right now, but they're having some major supply issues. And you try to get the newest Legion 7 or even the Legion 5 Pro, and they're all a 4+ month wait, which I've never seen before. You might as well just say it's not out yet, to say that you're gonna have to wait, you're gonna have to buy it and then wait 4+ months before you can get it. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Oh, G15 speakers, 100%. Yeah, the Asus ROG Zephyrus G15 speakers were the best sounding speakers that I've seen in a gaming laptop so far. It just sounded so crisp. The bass, obviously you can't get amazing bass, but those were the closest sounding bass to a MacBook Pro speakers that I've heard from any other laptop. The quality, I would say, is on par with the MacBook Pro. It's not as loud. I saw somebody in the comments saying that on the G15 you could get this software to make the speakers produce louder sound, but it could partially distort it. I haven't tried that out yet, but it is interesting that that's a possibility. Alright, so it looks like we're almost done with the single core score. After we do this, I'm going to jump into the 3D Mark, and then after 3D Mark, we're going to be jumping into some actual games. So, for everybody that is in the chat right now that's currently watching, you guys have first dibs on what game I run first. So, while this is going, let me go ahead and show you. I'll tell you some of the games that we're going to be benchmarking, but so the typical ones that I do are Call of Duty, Black Ops, Forza Horizon 4, Tomb Raider, Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 3, Witcher 3, but I also got Fortnite, and Grand Theft Auto, and what was the third one? Warzone. Yeah, I just got Warzone, so we can test that out as well. So because I can't afford to keep these laptops, I've stuck with my first original gaming laptop, which I bought mostly for editing because I'm a creative guy that does a lot of animation and visual effects. Wow, it looks like the CPU is not being used that much for. It's only using a small percentage of it right now. I'm guessing that's because it's only using one of the cores, that it's just showing the average of what it's giving you. Let's jump into the CPU. Interesting. So I wonder why it's holding the CPU back so much. What temperatures are we getting right now? Getting 43. Yeah, so 66 degrees on the CPU. So a lot cooler than it was when we were using all of the cores. How about the... So yeah, sorry, I got off on a tangent. My daily use laptop is the Alienware M17 R3. It's been a great computer. I love it. There was a few times in the beginning that I was getting some blue screens pretty frequently, but there was some sort of update firmware or something. I don't know if it was a Windows update or if it was a Dell update. But for the past 3 months, I haven't gotten a blue screen on my Alienware M17 R3. Alright, so first dibs that I saw, Cordy Cyberpunk, so I'll jump into Cyberpunk first. John Vargas also said Cyberpunk, so looks like that wins. John said, I bought the RTX 3080 14-inch model and it's worth every penny. Great move to Ryzen AMD. Wow, the 3080 model. So you got the most powerful tiny laptop. They claim on their website that it's the most powerful 14-inch laptop in the world. Which after some of these tests right now, it's getting hot, but I'm pretty impressed with how powerful it is with how small it is. And then after that, Rummet said Tomb Raider, so we'll jump into Tomb Raider after that. These live stream test reviews are a good idea. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's always nice when I can finally connect directly to the people that care about these videos the most, so I can give you guys exactly what you're looking for. But it's also nice to just hang out too and not make it all about this stat, that stat, this stat, that stat. I think we're almost done with this test. It also gives a nice real world view of what's going on. You can't really fake what's happening. Not that any YouTubers would want to fake it, but you just get that extra sense of this is what I would be getting if I purchased this laptop, and not a paid review or something that's just trying to look flashy. Amal said Warzone. I have not played Warzone yet. I did download it. So if there's any advice you'll want to give me before jumping in that, is it similar to a regular Call of Duty game, or is it more like a third person, like you're actually dealing with the battle machines from above? It would be great if you could do Valorant by Young Soul. Oh, I remember you asking about that one time. Was that a Steam game? Warzone would be good. Ellison said Warzone would be good. Okay, so it sounds like Warzone will be third, but a lot of people are going for Warzone. So I'll run through Cyberpunk, Tomb Raider. Apex would be amazing though on this. O'Neill said. Yeah, I have Apex too, so I'll jump into that one as well. Almost done with the Cinebench. So believe it or not, this has been my most successful stream that I've had so far. I have not, knock on wood, not yet lost connection. I haven't had any HDMI issues or anything not plugging in correctly. The microphone's working right now. So it's going to be a good day. It's from Riot. And then Ivan Rivas Rodriguez, Fortnite. You can definitely jump on that. Yeah, man, I've been so busy, like trying to create all these videos and trying to create enough to kind of start to help and try to pay the bills, that I haven't had that much time for gaming, like actual gaming like I used to. So a lot of these games I have not played yet or have played very little of yet. One of the easiest games for me to play when I have time is Call of Duty Mobile on my phone, just because it's right there, and if I get a free moment when I'm out and about, Call of Duty Mobile is a pretty fun game. I'm kind of good at it too. Alright, so we got a 1423. What did I get on the Rogue Zephyrus for the single core? I got 1442, so the Rogue Zephyrus got a little bit higher of a score. It's to be expected with it being a bigger machine. But you're also paying about the same price, so if you're looking for portability, this is definitely a fast machine for portability and being very small. But I did get slightly better scores with the Zephyrus. Let's go ahead and type that in, 1442. And then real quick, 3D Mark. Actually, before I jump into 3D Mark and start doing games, I am going to switch this back to the gaming driver. Right now it's on the studio driver. For the people that missed it, I switched from the gaming driver to the studio driver for these more CPU intensive benchmarks, and I got higher scores, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Switch back to the game ready driver. For some reason, I guess every time you switch between drivers, you have to reinstall it. It should only take about 60 seconds though. Cordy asked, are you a full-time YouTuber? I was let go from my full-time job a couple of months ago. So for the past couple of months, I've been doing YouTube full-time. Here in the next few months, if things don't pick up like they would need to pay the bills, I will be getting back into some freelance. Probably not going back to work for a company anytime soon. But yeah, I'm probably going to be mixing freelance with YouTube until I can get YouTube at more of a full-time status. But it takes such a long time to build the following and to build enough attention to get the right sponsors in order to pay the bills. And it takes a long time to just get good at YouTube too. I mean, this is not that good of a stream. My last few streams were really bad. Just technical difficulties and different things here and there. So as I spend more time, I've only been doing YouTube seriously full time for a couple of months. I've been exhausting myself doing YouTube on the side while working for the past 8 months before that, or 6 months before that. Alright, so installation complete. We'll do a 3D Mark benchmark test real quick. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this for my full review. Snipping tool's my favorite tool. Cinebench version 2. Saturday, I was a new subscriber. I want the Blade 14. Awesome. Welcome to the channel. Blade 14 is definitely a great machine. We'll see what kind of frames per second we get here in a bit. Let me jump into the 3D Mark benchmarks. This one's my favorite one just because I like the animations and it's more interesting to look at than little buckets running around or a progress bar moving. The 3D Mark Time Spy, this very long animation. If you guys haven't seen it before, not a very long animation, but it's an animation of this guy going into a post-apocalyptic world, or he's already in the post-apocalyptic world. He's looking through a mirror, reaching into a different time period, dimension. It's pretty cool. We are solidly behind you. Thanks, O'Neill. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely fun creating videos. Been creating videos or animations or video clips or editing for the past 12 years. But I really feel like it's time for me to kind of branch out and do my own version of that. And it's liberating and it's fun, but it's also scary because it's brand new, and anytime you start something brand new, it's never going to be that big in the beginning. So this is the Time Spy 3D Mark benchmark. Start here in a second. Yeah, these fans are working. They are working hard right now. Let's see if they sound any louder than they did a second ago. They're actually a little, well, understandably, because they stalled for a little bit not working on a benchmark, but they're at about 59, 60 decibels right now, when before they were at 62 when we were running the last benchmark test. I wonder how long it took them to make this. Just for this test. It was an animation company just trying to get their name out there to show off what they can do, but they kind of packaged it into a benchmark test so that everybody would use it and see it. Question: when we buy a new laptop, what should I look for and what tests to run? It depends on what you're going to be using the laptop for. Are you using it for gaming, or are you using it for content creation? If you're only using it for web surfing, then honestly you only need a few $100s for a Chromebook if you're only web surfing. There's a lot of people out there that think they need a super fast machine so they can surf the web as fast as possible and watch online videos. But for something like that, honestly, a Chromebook that doesn't have Windows on it, there's a lot of good Google Chrome apps as well that are similar to like Microsoft Word and Excel that work really well for people that don't need the fancier programs or the content creation programs, or aren't going to be doing any gaming. But yeah, if you were getting a computer solely for gaming, you'll want to look at, first and foremost, the GPU that is the biggest for the least amount of money. That also, one number that you'll have to look for is what the maximum watts that GPU can get. Because if you get a super fast GPU in a laptop, but it can't be pushed to its maximum power because its maximum graphics power is so low, then it's almost not worth it to have such an expensive GPU in that laptop. College, so little gaming, coding, and later product. So coding isn't something that you need a super powerful machine for, unless the programs that you're going to be creating are super intensive. But for gaming, yeah, I would look for. I wouldn't go. For most people, I mean, 3080 is definitely the most powerful graphics, or the most powerful GPU. Most people can't afford that cost or don't see as pushing themselves past their budget to be worth the 3080. It is faster, but I typically recommend the 3070 for most people. You would still honestly get pretty decent gaming performance with a Ryzen 7 processor. Ryzen 9 is going to be better because games still like to use CPU as well. As we'll see in some of these benchmark tests, there's going to be some games that are more prone to use a lot of CPU versus GPU. Those games are going to be show higher frames per second because of the Ryzen 9. But the ones that weigh more on the graphics processor, those are going to be more. It's going to be based on the total graphics power, honestly, like I was talking about when it comes to the GPU, how many frames per second you're going to be getting in that, how overheated it gets. Andrew Pice, how's it going? Did that answer your question, QWERTY? Blackbeard J was trying to get the 3070, but it sold out, and I got the 3080 instead. Yeah, usually, for the most part, for what I've been seeing, it looks as though the 3080s have been selling out more, but I can imagine with the crypto craze kind of cooling off a little bit, that the most powerful graphics cards are not going to be as expensive. And honestly, for the gaming community, it's going to be a lot better for us that this crypto is not as hot as it once was. I don't know if you guys have invested in it or not. I invested back in 2017, made some good money, but then lost a good portion of my gains. I didn't lose any money overall. But I definitely had a very big roller coaster back in 2017 with crypto. Now I'm kind of at that stage in my life where I don't want to take such big risks like that with my life savings, just because I want to be safer for my kids. So I haven't been paying too much attention to crypto recently. I definitely think some sort of digital money is going to be the future of money. I just don't know if any crypto that is currently out there right now is going to be the one that everybody adopts. But the 3070 is better on price and middle ground, bang for your buck, bang for your money. I hope crypto chills. I think that should be a t-shirt. When I start creating merch, I think I'm going to do some sort of t-shirt that has to do with gamers, that's basically just like knocking on crypto or the GPUs. But yeah, I hope crypto chills. I could see that as a nice little graphic tee. You have some investments in crypto. Family comes first for sure. Yep, that's true. I think the G15 Zephyrus would be good for me. Yeah, so far that's been my favorite one. My favorite one that I've used. So speaking of the Zephyrus 15, the scores that I got for 3D Mark for the Zephyrus was, the overall was 9132. This one is 9110. Go ahead and snip this. Oops. Snip. Come on now. There we go. File. Save that as 3D Mark version 2. Let's go ahead and record this. So we got a graphics score of 9179, CPU of 8741, and an overall of 9110. So on the Zephyrus, my graphics score was 9236, and the CPU score was 8590. So so it's interesting that the CPU got a higher score for 3D Mark than this. I mean, the Ryzen 9 is pretty nice. But both of those had the Ryzen 9. This one, for some reason, was Blackbeard. Thank you for subscribing, man. Appreciate it. So the CPU, yeah, is faster on, at least in this test, the CPU is faster on the Razer Blade 14. Very interesting. Alright, so you guys asked for it. You asked for, let me minimize all this. The game that you asked for first was Cyberpunk 2077, so let's jump into that one. Yeah, the form factor on the Razer 14 is really impressive. And I did a little tick mark, a little star next to, I've got a list of different things most people talked about in other videos for the Razer Blade 14. Put a little tick mark every time somebody else mentioned the same thing. The thing that got the most tick marks for the Razer Blade 14 was it not having a 16:10 ratio, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's not something that I personally look for when I'm looking into a laptop, and a lot of people are complaining about that. There is a massive bezel at the bottom of the screen, but not something that really bothered me too much. I tend to like things to not be letterboxed. But yeah, if you like MacBooks, MacBook Pros, the Razer Blade definitely is the gaming version of that. I call it the Blackbook Pro just because that's what it feels like. Settings. Okay, why is this out of range? Let's go to defaults. Do you want to restore? Okay, restore defaults. Interesting. Let me disconnect this real quick. Figure out why it's showing different. Got window. Okay, windowed borderless. I think I want to go full screen on that. Bump the resolution down to 1080 instead of 1440 so that we're getting more of a apples to apples comparison between the other reviews that we've done. Okay, let's put this back in now that it's scaled back up. Come on now. It is formatted really weird right now. Alright, let me bring this back to the right settings. Video, make that full screen. It's interesting that it's not stretching it to the full size of the screen. Might just do it in windowed mode. Yeah, I like the screen. It's small but gorgeous. Yep. I made a little Ryzen 5700G integrated PC, and it's amazing. It runs how it runs games. Very nice. Size is insane, but the thermals are too hot, and the metal frame that holds heat longer. I think I'll stay away. I'm pretty impressed with how cool the metal itself feels, though. It does look like the internals of the machine itself are getting hot. Right now we're looking at 61 on the GPU, 70 on the CPU degrees. Looks like we're getting 57 average frames per second. Double check my settings. Full screen, 1080p. Graphics all the way up, ultra. DLSS is set to auto. VSync, I wanted that off so that we can get more frames per second. Well, that only gives you more frames per second if you're locked to 60 hertz. How long have you been running it? Well, I've been running this machine for about an hour with all these benchmarks on it. So in Cyberpunk, it doesn't look like it's getting too hot, but it's also not posting very insane frames per second right now. The average frames per second we're getting in here in this pretty highly graphicked garage right here, it's 55 frames per second. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that on my sheet. Cyberpunk at HD. Okay. It's 55 frames per second. Dare we go to 4K? I say we dare. Display settings. $3840 by $2160. Keeps changes. Ooh, that made everything tiny. So now, settings, video, full screen. Oh man, 3840 by 2160. Can it do it? Can it handle it? Oh, where'd it go? Did it not like that? Wait a second. Is there 2 instances of Cyberpunk going on right now? What in the world? It opened twice. Okay. Let's see if we get a better result now. I don't know how that opened twice. Well, that's going to be a factor on the overall performance. Oh, it's restarting it? Let me make sure it didn't open it twice again. Okay, so there's 1 instance of it running right now. Why is it not coming up? Okay, fresh open from here. Double click once. Now let's let it start. And hopefully it doesn't open up 2 different instances of it. I didn't even know it was possible to have the game running twice. Play. 1 click. Oh, this already feels better. Yeah, let's try that again. Man, my stats look so tiny in the corner when I'm in 4K mode. Settings. Video. 3840 by 2160 full screen. Continue. See how well this computer does with only one instance of the game going. Sorry, I got a stuffy nose right now. Okay, so at 4K, we're pushing 33 average frames per second, it looks like. So, I mean, that's not terrible for 4K on a 14-inch laptop, but it's not super impressive. Yeah, I think we can safely say that's 33 frames per second. So I'm going to keep that in memory. And I'm going to redo the HD real quick and see if it does better after only having one version of Cyberpunk open. You would think it would. There we go. Yeah, that looks better. We were pushing 55 frames per second before. Now we at least broke 60, which Cyberpunk is a pretty intense game. So getting above 60, actually I think above 60 on this game Don't quote me on this, but I think that's better than what I got on the Zephyrus G15. And we're getting 63 degrees on the GPU and 71 on the CPU. Actually, max on the GPU is looking 64. So I'll go 64, and the max I saw the CPU was 72, so we'll go ahead and post that. That's actually, I mean, that's not too hot for running this game. I've got everything maxed out. So we'll say 64 for HD. And then the CPU temperatures are about 72, and the GPU is at, what was it at? We look back in time, see what overall I was doing. Oh, it's so tiny now. It's so tiny I can't see it. Oh, it's getting hotter now. Okay, so I exit out of the game and the CPU gets hotter. I go back in the game and you see the CPU temperatures drop back down. That's interesting. So it's 72 on the CPU, 63 on the GPU. Alright, so I'm going to scroll back up. I believe the next one that was requested... Oh, I can't go up that high? Where is it? Cyberpunk, Tomb Raider. That was the next one. That's a really good benchmark test. Just because they did such a good job with their stats on that demo. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Shadow of a Tomb Raider after I close down Cyberpunk. Let's see what we got for Shadow of a Tomb Raider. Agree. Display and graphics. We'll start with... Oh, it's already in 4K mode. We might as well try it on 4K, see what happens. You know, the tests I've done with this game with DLSS have not really been too good in the past. We'll do it once on, once off, and see what it does. We'll only do it in 4K mode though, just because it hasn't been proven to be much big of a difference on 1080p. Oh, you know what? I didn't set that to the absolute highest preset settings. Sorry, let me restart that. I think it was just set to high, and I always set it to highest. So we want this to be as accurate as possible. DLSS on Tomb Raider is big for QHD. Skip. Might as well start with it on. Highest preset settings. Apply changes. Now let's run the benchmark. .60 frames per second in 4K on a tiny Blackbook Pro. Not bad. Dropping a little bit. It's hard to see what the temperatures are doing right now. I think it says 64 GPU. The CPU is getting a little over 80 degrees right now. Moises G, how's it going? Welcome to the benchmarks of the incredibly tiny but powerful Razer Blade 14. I'm always really impressed with these greenery shots in the forest. To be able to render that in real time, to be able to create software that builds this to where it's literally rendering every frame of that 63 times every second. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize how impressive that is. I come from some of you probably already hear me talk about this a lot, but coming from a 3D background, 3D animation, where renders can take several hours for one image, to see these happen so fast it's always been impressive to me. But this is happening at 4K with all of this greenery, so I'm pretty impressed, honestly. This machine is holding up pretty well with games. The Relaxing House, how's it going? Good to see you again. Yeah, all this detail, still almost at 60 frames per second. Man, that looks good. I'm not taking full advantage of the beauty of the Razer Blade 14 screen right now. I can't look at it. I'm having to look at my preview monitor on Streamlabs right now, because every time that I try to look at my screen or try to mirror it to both screens, it brings the performance down, so I can't do it that way. And there you have it. Average frames per second, 61 in 4K. I'm impressed. It got my attention. And that's at the 3070. The 3080 will be a little bit better than that. It's a monster. It's a tiny monster. I don't know if you saw the unboxing video, but the box itself almost felt like a cheeseburger. Alright, so let's see what it does with DLSS off. at 1080p. Yeah, 61 and 4K is pretty good for this tiny thing. To think this matches, go ahead and run this. To think this matches or even outpaces a 2070 desktop GPU in a footprint almost the same size. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, the whole laptop itself is basically the size. Probably, I don't know the exact length of the new 30 series GPUs, but I would say that this laptop is about that size. It's definitely thinner than those GPUs. So we're pushing some good FPS on this right now. Almost reaching 120. Now, if you're looking at a game on this display itself, you'll only ever truly get the advantage of 165 frames per second. I don't know why anybody necessarily needs to see past that. A lot of people don't see that much of a difference past 60. When it comes to split-second choices and decisions that your brain makes based on how many frames per second you're getting, you can get better performance as far as accuracy in your game with higher than 60 frames per or 165 frames per second. But I beg to differ whether anybody can consciously notice a big difference past 165 frames per second. Relaxing House asked about the fan noise. So I've done a few tests throughout this. The fan noise, it's louder than normal. The fans themselves underneath, there's two pretty oversized 88 blade fans on the bottom that are pretty powerful. And then there's no exhaust on the sides. There's only a tiny little strip of exhaust at the bottom underneath, and then a tiny strip of exhaust vents at the very back of the laptop, the very back lip that I'll show in my full review that actually somewhat hit the hinge that goes all the way across. So it bounces off of that and spreads, like the hinge basically splits the wind, the heat in two different directions. One goes up, one goes down. One kind of goes up towards the screen, but the screen itself underneath has a very thick bezel underneath that I'm imagining they put that there to protect the screen itself, since it probably gets pretty hot. But overall, this is the coolest exterior of a laptop that I've felt so far. The outside of the laptop does not feel hot at all. It just, from the looks of it, it's getting hot internally. But yeah, so as far as numbers, we've been getting close to 60 decibels. I can't run it right now because I got volume. Let me turn the volume down on this test. So I've got the fans maxed all the way up on this game right now, and I was getting 58 decibels, so it actually came down a little bit. Oh, how did that happen? It was set to high, not highest. I guess once I brought it from 4K down to 1080p, it changed that setting, because this was set to highest before. Let's run that again real quick. Sorry about that. I found the RB14 RB14 RTX 3070 on Microsoft for $2,000 versus the regular $2,200. Definitely planning to purchase through there and spend $200 or so difference for the extended warranty. It's a good idea. Zim said, how low can it be scaled before visibly gets bad? Are you talking about how low can the settings within this benchmark go before like the shading and the ray tracing effects start to not look so good anymore. Is that what you're talking about, Zine? So it looks like the frames per second are a little bit lower now. Now that we're running everything at their highest preset settings, I'm predicting it to be, it was at like 104 at high preset settings, so I'm assuming that it's probably going to be closer to 98. That's my guess, that the average frames per second is going to be at the end of this. The Windows scaling in display. I'm not sure I understand the question. The Windows scaling in display. Oh, do you mean as far as changing the overall resolution of the display itself, like the desktop, instead of being at its default settings, bringing it down to 1920 by 1080 or even 1280 by 720? The Windows scaling in display. So when I scale a window like on my desktop in the display, nothing really looks lower res or lower quality when I scale that down. Oh, so close. I guess 98, got 99. I wonder if I could, after doing this a lot of times, if I can start to be, instead of be that guy in the corner, instead of guessing your age, tell me your graphics card in your computer and I'll guess the frames per second on whatever game. Not quite. There's a resolution setting and scaling setting that you can lower or increase to assist the screen visibility or overall size. Should be a percentage. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Let me jump into that setting real quick. First, let me record this at 99. Oops. Put that FPS in the wrong spot. So the GPU and CPU, let's look at that real quick. What we were getting as far as the heat. What happened to my afterburner? Oh, it's so tiny. Exit out this game real quick and change my resolution back to 1080p so I can start to see stuff. So what we were getting as far as temperature at the max is about 68 GPU. and the CPU temperature was hitting around 85, so 68 and 85. Lower increase to assist the screen visibility. I think that was in display settings. So right now I have mine at 100%. Guess I can't go below 100 unless I changed my resolution back to what the default for this screen is, which is 1440. So yeah, you can always scale your text up like this. Back down there. About the Alienware X15. Well, I'm not getting the X15 anytime soon. I am getting the X17 probably on Friday. And yeah, the next 2 weeks I'm going to be dedicating to that, and I'm super excited about that. Because that's supposed to be some groundbreaking technology. But I'm going to bring this back to 4K. And if I bring this text up, is that going to help me with my MSI visibility? So I hope it does. Keep calling it MSI, my afterburner visibility. Nope, still keeps afterburner teeny tiny. Alright, so the next request that I had on here was, I believe it was Warzone. I think that was what the popular opinion was. Cyberpunk, Tomb Raider, and then Warzone. So I have not yet played Warzone yet. I hear a lot of good things. So, not Warzone 2010. All games. I know I downloaded it. Let's search for it here. War. Did the wrong one get downloaded and not the... Warzone 2010 is not what I was looking for. Try reopening after scaling. Yeah, I've always had an issue with Afterburner obeying the Microsoft scaling. I think it's still going to be small when I do this. Yeah, it's still teeny tiny. Wonder if there's something in the settings that allows it to get bigger based on the resolution. Did Modern Warfare download instead of Warzone? Just a second. Yeah, that was where I went when I downloaded it. I had battle.net open up and it's not showing it in there. Play for free. Being downloaded. Okay, so it's called Modern Warfare, but it's called Warzone. So I did download the right thing. Oh, that's the setup. Oh, it runs off Modern Warfare's engine. Okay. So essentially I should be able to click on it, because yesterday after I downloaded that I saw a progress bar in here and it looked like it finished. Oh wait, here we go. Play. Oh, there we go. Skip for now. Right click on the program and use compatibility settings, and you can force it to obey scaling, I think. So check that out. Shortcut for Warzone is right next to Fortnite on your desktop. Let's turn this volume up. Yeah, the sharper sounds on these speakers sound really good. It's the bassier sounds that, if played too loud, can sound kind of distorted. But that did sound very surround sound like. Play with an Activision account. Oh, I gotta do all that right now? Technically, I should have an Activision account that I used with my mobile version of Call of Duty. I'll just create a new one real quick. Is this sound from the speakers or captured? This is from the speakers of the laptop. So my microphone is picking this up right now. Oh, that was pretty straightforward. If anybody wants to jump in on this or start a game, let's see, that all looks good. Continue. See if I missed any comments. Update requires restart. Not a restart of the computer for sure, right? Just a restart of the game. Always updates. Don't they know when you get a new game you just want to jump in? So is it updating right now, or? Yeah, the sharp sounds do sound really good. I was listening to some rock and roll music on YouTube previously to see how they sounded. and that didn't sound that great, but these sharp little sounds from this beginning screen sounded really good, and somehow it did. I don't know what they did, but somehow it did feel like it was in the room with you. Automatically capture highlights of your gameplay? No thanks. I exit past this real quick. I mean, this looks amazing, but I just want to get to... Don't quit the desktop. Play now. I guess play training is the first thing I'll have to do. Installing shaders to optimize performance during gameplay. In progress, pack 1, 98%. Do I need to wait for that to finish? Because that can affect my FPS. There we go. Play. I was telling some of the people earlier on the stream that when I started playing Call of Duty Black Ops, when I did tests on this laptop, I know a lot of laptops have...
In Warzone, every operator is equipped with an armored vest. Grab an armor plate from the table.
I know a lot of laptops have this where the colors can change based on the game, but this one did it by default. Right when I jumped into Call of Duty Black Ops, when the game was about to start, the keyboard was pulsing that orange, just kind of felt like you were part of that game, just ready to respawn. And then as soon as the game started, all of the keys that you normally use all turned into their own specific color based on what their different functions were. So that was pretty cool. My Blade 14 has more CPU temperature, almost 98 degrees gaming. Any idea what's happening? No, I'm not sure what could be causing. When you go into your Synapse software, let's jump into this real quick. When you go into here, do you have this fan all the way up? Because right now I have this fan almost at 5400 RPMs. Right now I have it at 53. Obviously, to get your computer that high, you probably have both your CPU and GPU clocked as high as possible. But to get that high, why did it just jump me back to a laptop? Okay. To get that high, it would have to be hot in the room, or I don't know if, I mean, these are only some simple solutions I could possibly think of, and I don't know if your laptop is sitting on clothing or on the bed. I know you probably didn't do that, but it's always a possibility if there's something kind of prohibiting that airflow. What game are you normally playing when it's getting that hot? Because today we haven't seen those temperatures as of right now. Where did my game go? What is the icon? The icon for Warzone? I don't close it out. Is it relaunching it? Yeah, I don't see the icon down there. Oh, it didn't quit properly. No, I don't want to start in safe mode. happened to my sound? I'm not getting sound coming out of this anymore. Can't even see my own sound bar with my mug in the way. HDMI to USB, no. I knew that's what happened. Alright, let's jump back into this.
Welcome to Warzone training. In Warzone, every operator is equipped with an armored vest. Grab an armor plate from the table.
Look at those numbers. 123 frames per second.
Slide the armor into your vest. Good work.
Blue bars and
Pick up some ammo.
okay. Will do.
Proceed to the next area. Hit all the targets.
Left alt. Has the blade a trackpad like the MacBook where you can click anywhere, or like the old styled where you have to click left and right at the bottom? Yeah, you can basically click anywhere on here. The higher you get to the top, it's less clicky. Well, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, at the very top, you can't click at it. You can't click on it. About halfway is when you start getting the ability to click on it.
Drop it, just. Nicely done.
Tab. So 115 frames per second is about average what we're getting here. I wish I could test with a bunch of people.
Big caliber here.
Drop tab. Take. So I can cancel training and then just go to like a custom game with a bunch of bots. So that's what I just that's how I just want to test it with. I think I'm getting in the way. No, there's nothing over there. Just go to plunder and land on the edge of the map. Oh, I just hit.
Grab some target practice while you can. We're deploying soon.
78 FPS. Oh! .76 average FPS. .75. Ho! 78.
Warm-up's done. Time to kick this off.
Tutorials. Thank you, mate. Absolutely. Can I skip this part, or it's all part of it?
Battle Royale. Set a drop point for your team, soldier. Gas is closing on your position.
I believe this is 1440p right now.
Found the recon contact.
Yep. 1440. See what we get at 1920, since a lot of people are using 1920 by 1080.
Move to the next area and secure the perimeter.
So it looks like, looking at all this world, we're averaging at 113 frames per second at 1080p. Could I land on this? Nope. Is there a way to speed my descent? I think I pulled my parachute too early. 109.
Targets are up. Get to work.
Yeah, I'm getting 111 frames per second right now, average. 112. And my CPU is at 70, or no, my GPU is at 70. My CPU, I just saw it hit 96 degrees right there. So yeah, it's getting hot. The actual laptop itself doesn't feel very hot though. Let me feel underneath. No, pretty cool underneath. I mean, it's a little warm, but compared to my Alienware M17, how hot the outside of that gets, you know all the heat is happening internally and not on your actual hands. So let's go ahead and mark that down. 70 and 95 and 111 for the frames per second.
Enemy launched an advanced UAV. We're exposed. Contract
War
Recon intel
zone.
secured.
Alright, let's go ahead and do some 4K on this. Oh, we got captured.
Win here and you return to the front line. You lose, your fight is over. Time to earn your freedom, soldier.
Alright, we're hitting about the same frames per second on the inside, so I'm going to move this up to 4K.
Your team can still buy you back if they have the cash.
Wow, you can go up to 5120 by 2880 on here? That's insane. $38.40 by 2160.
Found the recon contact. Rally on that vehicle.
All these other settings should be pretty similar. We turn on DLSS.
Station here.
Is it still telling me I'm hitting 100 frames per second at 4K? I mean, I know I'm spectating right now, but
Next station here. I'm thinking here.
oh, render resolution was somehow... That makes sense. Display resolution 3840. Apply settings.
Next station here.
Oh! Is that what I think it says? Yeah, 46 frames per second. 48. 49.
Okay, get back driving.
Living on the wild side. Oh no, I still pulled it too early. So that's a lot to render. Look at all that green smoke.
Found the recon contact.
50 frames per second. That's not bad. 49.
Aim for target location.
50. Well, with DLSS, the temperatures aren't looking that hot on the CPU anymore. 73 degrees. 51 frames per second. So 63.73. Looking at 51 frames per second. So at HD, we're getting 95.
Gas inbound. Safe zone relocated.
.4K. 73 at 4K.
Enemy dropping into the AO.
And then now it jumped up when I exited the game and came back into it. Now it's coming back down. It's like when you leave a game running, exit out of it, then come back, it jacks your heating up. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. See if I had any more requests. If not, I'm going to jump to Forza, since Forza has a really good benchmark system. Cyberpunk Warzone, Apex, that's right. Check out Apex first. Apex Legends. You call yourselves legends. Skip, skip. Earth to Apex. Hello? Did my Apex freeze? Ooh, my keyboard's doing something. I think there's some sort of cool custom profile for Apex. It's got this cool pulsating line of red. Okay, restart that. Something's going on with that. Said close window. Wow, this is being stubborn. You make me force quit this thing? End task. There we go. Alright, Apex Legends. Let's try this again. Continue. Ready.
Welcome to Apex Legends.
So I believe this is at 4K.
You can call me Bloodhound. Let us begin with basic movement. Complete the checklist on your HUD.
So I can tell it's capping it out at 60 frames per second. That means VSync or something. No, VSync would not make it cap out at 60. That means that there's a limit on it right now. And I'm not having a limit. Where was that limit? Apply. I don't see any FPS limit on here. Being exactly 60. Okay, so just taking VSync off, change that. Am I really getting 62 frames per second average on 4K? Wow. 76 frames per second average on 4K. I'm doing 4K because I'm going out of the HDMI cable externally out of the laptop. So the laptop itself, the screen isn't going to 4K. That only goes to 1440p. You're right about that. It's just outputting to 4K right now through the HDMI. Wow. 75 frames per second averaging right now. If you guys are wanting to do some serious 4K gaming in Apex and you have an external monitor to do that, you can get some serious gaming out of this. The temperatures got so small it's hard to... Okay, so 60 GPU, 66 CPU. I'm impressed with Apex. .74 frames per second at 4K. So 1080p is going to be super quick. Or you would assume it would be. Yeah, about what you'd expect, double what we were getting. Okay, so it's capping it out at 144. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. I want to see exactly what it's getting. So why is it capping it out at 144? What's the max we can get out of this guy? VSync is disabled. What do I do with the laptops after unboxing? Unfortunately, I have to give them back because I can't afford to keep them or buy them anymore. Or I never was able to. Maybe in the future if I get a little bit more cash flow. So that seems like there shouldn't be anything holding the FPS back. I wonder if the HDMI itself caps out at 144. Oh no, it went 146. 147. Maybe it's not capping it out because I saw it go above it. So 64, 65 GPU, 78 CPU was the max temperatures we were getting. I'm going to make this lower column for 4K temperatures. HD was 144. Impressive. So I'm going to jump into Forza, see what we're working with on there. Make sure we're still at 4K right now. This game looks beautiful. I love jumping in on this one. Do you post your benchmarks anywhere for comparison to your past machines? No, but now that I created this benchmark spreadsheet, I'm gonna go ahead and plug in all my previous laptops on there as well, so you can see their numbers right next to each other. And I might put that in like a shareable link, Google Doc or something like that for you guys. Oh wait, press enter, that's right. My head was in the way. Options. Video. We're already in 4K mode right now. Accept. Frame rate. VSync off. Frame rate as fast as I want it to be. That's what I want the frame rate to be. Unlocked. Ultra settings. Is there any DLSS on here? Doesn't look like there's any DLSS settings. So we're gonna run it as is on ultra settings at unlocked frame rate, 4K. Might as well see the bigger frame rate in the corner. Save that. Benchmark mode. Do you ever play with a Alright. Do you ever play with a controller? The haptics on Forza are very immersive. Oh, no, I have not. Which controller do you use, Zine? I think I might do a review on different controllers as well, because that was one thing that I've been interested in playing around with. So we're at 2.5 hours right now. After I do the Forza benchmarks, I'll do one more game if you guys have a request, and then we'll end the stream after that. I only have a cheap $20 off-brand Xbox controller, but the vibration effect makes it so I can't play Forza any other way anymore. Yeah, some of those Amazon controllers are pretty good. I have one Amazon controller for my son's Nintendo Switch. It's pretty decent for how much less expensive it is than the Nintendo Switch controllers. So at 4K, we're getting 83 frames per second right now. That looks good. This is a game that you benefit the most from, in my opinion, as far as high frames per second, because of how fast everything whizzes by your face. It really makes a big difference for all that to be smooth. You don't really get the complete benefit in the stream of how smooth it is, because the stream itself, I think, is only 30 frames per second. But we're getting 80 plus right now. So far, pretty impressed with this laptop. .87 frames per second average. Very nice. Wow. It's interesting which games different machines do better on, because it's not always consistent. They're different. Their specific specs on their machine don't really translate exactly to what you would think for frames per second. So Forza at 4K, we got 87 frames per second. Impressive. So what were the temperatures that we were getting on there? Man, this is so tiny. I basically have to change the resolution of my display back down in order to read what I got. Keep the settings. So what we were working with as far as the heating, '67 GPU. Ooh, CPU was maxing out. Look at this CPU graph right here. Boom. I mean, no, I wouldn't say it maxed out. The highest it got was 90. So 70 and 90. GPU 70, CPU 90 was the highest that we were getting on there. Alright, now I'm interested to see how incredibly fast this HD is going to be, because 4K really impressed me. Alright, VSync off. Let's do this. Alright, let's go. I just saw above 140. I get about 124 with my QHD Omen. I wonder how close this can get. Were you getting... So you were getting 124 at HD, not QHD, right? I know you said it was a QHD monitor. $133. That's a good number. And 68 and 86 as far as the temperature. Alright, so I got time for one more. We've got Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Doom Eternal, or Fortnite. Actually, somebody mentioned Fortnite. I forgot about that. So we'll jump into that one. I have yet to play Fortnite, so if somebody wants to direct me on the best spot to go for the most accurate representation of what you're going to be seeing in-game. Wow, so you're getting 124 at 1440p on your HP Omen. That's pretty good. Very impressive. So the keyboard just changed blue for Fortnite. Very cool. Just lose access to my mouse. That's pretty cool, but I want to fast forward through that.
Never before have we seen anything quite like this.
Is there a way to fast forward through that? Mine though. Figured I was covering up a button.
Alright, listen up. We don't have much time. We now stand at the brink of war. With an enemy we do not understand. We face impossible odds.
Battle Pass. I'm gonna push me out real quick so I can see what's going on. Why doesn't it let me click on anything? There we go. Who? 38 frames per second, 70 GPU, 92 CPU. Yeah, so 33 average it's looking like. Am I using ray tracing? Frame rate limit, I don't want to limit. Where are the ray tracing settings? You have to activate DX12 to use ray tracing. Are you talking about outside of the game you have to activate that? Let's see DX12 in here. Wow. I don't know what's going on with Fortnite, but in 1920 by 1080, that doesn't seem to be a very good frames per second. 38, 39. These are numbers you would see. Oh, it's at a lower resolution. Those are numbers you would see at 4K. Oh my gosh. Forza was still open. Well, that explains it. '94, '95. Reset the averages on the frames per second. .116, 117. .69 and 90 for the temperatures. Alright, now let's check out some 4K. Set my computer resolution to 4K. Play. DirectX 12 Beta, Performance Alpha. We go to DirectX 12. Looked like it said I needed to restart for that to take effect. And let's see specific ray tracing settings. So I'm going to assume that turning on, like what you were saying, turning on DirectX 12 turns on ray tracing. I'm going to restart Fortnite. It looks like that it changed my computer resolution back to 1080p. Let me make sure that it didn't. Yeah, it did. Why did it do that? Alright, let's go into... I guess you can't change your settings. Yeah, you can. Settings. 3840 by 2160. Don't want VSync. But I do want DirectX 12 on. Yep. Since I'm so high up. 4K. I'm going to go to Performance DLSS. Apply. So these are probably going to be somewhat low numbers. Keyboard just turned purple. Purple and white. Come on now. Here we go. '61, '64, '71, '72. This is really 4K. Then I'm pretty impressed. Hey, let me get up to settings. Can you not select your settings while you're in a parachute? Or in a... There we go. Hot air balloon, not parachute. Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty impressive with such a small machine. .94 frames per second, 95 average. This is at 4K, guys. It's pushing 95, 96 average frames per second at 4K on a machine the size of a MacBook Pro. Probably smaller than one. They claim it's the fastest 14-inch laptop, or the most powerful 14-inch laptop on the planet. So those are some big words. 94 frames per second, 6370 as far as temperatures. All right, you guys. That's about it for the live stream. I'm gonna be putting some timestamps on it a little later, so that you guys can kind of skip through what you want to look back on and check out. But other than that, stay tuned for our full review on Friday of this amazing and powerful Razer Blade 14 with a Ryzen 9 processor and a 3070 GPU. We're going to give you all the information that you're going to need to know about this machine before purchasing it, or if you shouldn't purchase this machine. It's definitely not for everybody. So we're going to go through the pros and cons on that on Friday. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you want to bring to my attention or have questions on about this machine before I finish the review, and then I can make sure to address that within the review. But other than that, thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. God bless.